Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Woodworking Technology. Today we're going to start with woodworking machine tools, and this is chapter 7 of the series. So let's get into it, all right?
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps.
Today we're going to be going through those tools that are driven by electrical motors, okay? So that means that they are powered by machines, motors, that kind of stuff. And this saves a lot of labor and time that it would take using your own hands. Okay, so there are two ways to do it. You either use it manually, meaning using your own hands, or you can use machines to speed up the work. Okay, also, they provide a wide range of operations and they are more accurate, let's say, than if you use it manually. Okay, so today we're going to discuss the basic woodworking machines, and these are not all the machines. Okay, so these are some of the machines that you are likely to use in the workshop, so you can acquaint yourself with them and know their functions and their operations. Okay, these machines are very dangerous, so you need to read the safety precautions before you use any of them. Okay, in chapter 1 and chapter 2, um, I go through the safety precautions, the general workshop um, safety requirements that you need to take before you use any of them. Okay. Okay, so let's get into the first one, and this is the circular saw. The circular saw is one of the most common woodworking machines that can be found in most workshops. And this one is the most versatile, or you can make the most variations of cuts with this table saw. Okay, you can use different dimensions, whether it be up to 8 feet cuts. You can do right down to 1 inch cuts. So it has a wide range of cuts that you can use. Its primary function is to resaw timber. So if you get timber from the store, or if you mill your own lumber, you can use the table saw to cut down your stock into smaller pieces. You can also do ripping, cross cutting, beveling, and these terms are in the previous 2 chapters. So if you don't know what these are, just look at the videos that came before this video, and you will know the difference between cutting, beveling, chamfering, trenching, and so on. Okay. Uh, some of the saws, they have a heavy cast iron base, as you can see here, right here where the pointer is. And this is really heavy, and it's heavy because you don't want the table saw to tip over while the wheel is spinning. Okay, so you want it to remain in a good position because you're going to put heavy things on top of it. Okay, so you want to make sure that the things that you're putting on top of it are lighter than the saw itself. Okay, sometimes if you're doing a job site, you have a portable circular saw that you can use, and some of them you can actually screw into the table so that it doesn't move anywhere. Okay, all right, so these are examples of circular saws. Here you have the table saw, you have the miter saw, you have the hand saw, you have lumber cutting saws also. Okay, and you have your little saw that you can walk, a portable saw that you can walk around. Some saws even comes with batteries, so it has the motor and everything in it, but some of them work with batteries. You don't have to connect them to a power outlet, meaning like an electrical power outlet. Okay. Um, when you are cutting or when you are using the table saw, you need to make sure the space around the table saw or any machine that you're using, you have to make sure that you can move about freely. Okay, you need to set your fence, meaning the piece that you're going to put the wood against, and make sure it's at the required distance that you want it to be. Okay, so always measure a couple times before you cut anything to save material. Um, you want to adjust the safety guard, if you have a safety guard, in the right position of your saw so that you don't cut any part of your body. And you want to make sure you have on the right PPE, or personal protective equipment. Okay. When you have a piece of stock or a piece of board against the fence, you push it forward and always keep the board against the fence. If you take the board off of the fence, it will cause it to wobble, and then you will have kickback. Okay, so you don't want any kickback, anything coming back towards you, 'cause it will come at a velocity that could hurt you. Okay, after you're finished, you want to switch off the machine and make sure it stops spinning before you go and do anything else in the shop. Okay, all right. When you're cross cutting, it's similar to when you're ripping, but you just make sure that everything is in place, make sure your guards are in position, and always hold down the board. Don't be afraid to hold down the board. Sometimes people get apprehensive when they are cutting, and that causes problems because you're not holding the board firmly, and that can cause it to wobble, and you have problems. So don't be afraid to, when you're cutting the board, don't be afraid to hold down the board against the fence properly. Okay. All right. Procedures for rebating, and over here you have an example of what a rebate is a little L cutout or square cutout in the wood, and these are the procedures for rebating. So you want to set the fence to the required distance. Make sure the depth of cut, meaning from top to bottom, is the required depth that you want. It is a variable, so it will change according to what you're actually making. Okay, so there's no one set depth that you want to use for rebating. All right, hold the work against the fence and push it forward. Okay, so it's similar to what we are doing when we are ripping and where we are cross cutting, and always switch off the machine after working with it. All right, so grooving, it's the same thing. Make sure you set everything correctly. And rebating, we went through that already. Okay, so trenching now. This is different because you're fixing a miter gauge to the table saw. Okay, so the miter gauge is something that you use as a jig. We call it a jig, so that you can trench at a certain depth. Okay, you don't want to go right through the wood. You're not cutting the wood all the way. Okay, so you want to set it to whatever you want. Support the workpiece and switch off the machines. Always have push sticks. Okay, so push sticks are important so that you don't cut your fingers or get any injuries. You want to keep your hands as far away from the blade as possible in case of any accidents. Okay. All right. All right. So the next thing we're gonna go on to is the bandsaw. And the bandsaw, this is another one of the most useful machines in the workshop, and it's used for cutting curves because the blade itself is more flexible than a circular saw. Circular saw is very wide and a bit thick. Okay, this is the more stringy, it's more flexible, so you can do curves with your stock, okay, or your piece of board. Um, it is used in general woodwork shops and small cabinet shops, pattern makers, all over the place. You can use them because if you want to make, let's say, a sign, a bandsaw would be useful for cutting um, various shapes and so on. Also, you have larger bandsaws that you can use to cut logs into commercial sizes. So if you cut down, let's say, a tree and you have pieces of logs, you can actually cut them into sizes that you can actually sell. Okay. Uh, all woodworkers, if you're in the field, should possess the skill of using a bandsaw. Okay, it's very important that you know how to use the bandsaw, and this is an example of it right here. You have the on-off switch, you have the saw guide, you have the table. It's similar to the table saw, except the blade itself is actually vertical. Okay, all right. The frame, you have the frame which holds both wheels. These are the wheels which spin the blade around. So the blade is a continuous thing that goes around the two wheels, and it just cuts as you go on the table itself. Right? Right. So when you are using the bandsaw, um, these are like basic chapter one, chapter two stuff. Never wear loose clothing or any ties or that kind of thing. It's really dangerous because you don't want your clothes or your tie to get caught up in the blade and then it just pulls you in. Okay. Wear earmuffs, and this goes for all of the machines. Earmuffs, safety goggles. Make sure before switching on that everything is in good position and secured. You want to make sure the blade is running properly, it doesn't run off the wheel. Make sure it's safe to stand in front of the machine. Make sure there's space around you. Concentrate on what you're doing. Do not talk to other people while you're cutting because you can cause an accident to yourself. And after you're finished, make sure you turn off the machine and do not leave the machine until the blade has stopped running. Okay. All right, so the next one is the radial arm saw, and this is not used a lot nowadays, but it's still used in some workshops, and this is used for cross-cutting boards. Okay, so but now that we have more modern table saws that you can cross-cut with, it's not used as much now as it used to be used before. Okay, so it can be used for operations such as grooving, trenching, beveling, and tenoning. Okay, so like I said, if you don't know what those are, look at the previous two chapters, and you will know all about those. Okay, all right. Here you have the jigsaw. The jigsaw is a power-driven cutting tool used for curves and regular shapes, and the jigsaw compared to the bandsaw, the jigsaw is more portable. However, you have, and it also has a smaller blade actually, so you can actually get more sharper curves using the jigsaw than the bandsaw itself. Okay. The next one is planing machines, and these are used to square to make your boards or your stock very square, and square meaning 90 degrees or flat. Okay, so you want to make sure everything is flat, or else when you're putting joints together they won't go together properly. All right. It is heavy like the table saw because you don't want it to be moving around, so you need your planer to be nice and flat. All right. Here you have a thicknesser. This is another form of a planer where you have the blades inside right here. So you have blades at the top underneath, and you have blades at the bottom. You run your stock or your piece of wood through this adjustable table, and depending on how thick you want your piece to be, you can adjust it up or down to the thickness that you want. Here's your on and off switch, and here's your wheel to adjust how thick you want it to be. Okay. All right. So here we have a combined jointer and thicknesser. So at the top you have, let me go back. So this is the jointer, and this is the thicknesser, and this is the combined jointer and thicknesser. Okay, so you have the jointer at the top and the thicknesser at the bottom. All right, so the next one is gonna be the drilling machine. Okay, and you might heard of the name the drill press. um, this is usually in most woodwork shops for drilling holes, and it is more sturdy than using a hand drill and just drilling through a piece of board. It actually is more accurate because there's nothing like moving around. Your hands tend to move around a bit, which causes inaccuracies. But these are more fixed, and they have a motor at the top, and you just drill your holes using the table that is provided. Okay, the same safety rules apply to them. Make sure you hold your workpiece securely, and make sure everything is clamped down properly. Okay. All right, so I think this is the last one. Is the wood turning lathe, and this is used to make posts. Like, let's say you want to do circular posts, or make a vase, or make a bowl, or make anything that you have to carve out. You want to use a wood turning lathe. Okay, and you can rotate it at a certain pace. It depends on how you set your motor. If you want it to, if you have larger material, you want to go at a slower pace. If you have smaller material, you can go faster. Okay, and you can make chair legs, table legs, lamp holders, anything that you want to carve out, you can make. Okay, all right. These are the tools that you usually use, and you may be familiar with these at the bottom. These are various chisels. However, they are not your mortise, your regular mortise and tenon chisel. Okay, these chisels provide different shapes in the wood itself. So you have the facing chisel, you have the spear point if you want a sharp indent in your piece. You have your gouging chisel if you want a bowl effect in your piece. And then these up here are the rests. Remember, we went through different rests in the sharpener. Okay, so you have different rests that you can use. All right, so now the different types of materials. And usually when you buy your lathe, they come with these at the top, and then you have to buy these because these can get destroyed after a while. So you want to upgrade them eventually. Okay, so here you have an example of the lathe, and like I said, these are the different points to the, let me go back up to these right here, which is the accessories. So all of these are actually right here, and these are the shapes that they make. So it depends on what style you want your piece to be. You use different things. Here you have a bowl, and you can actually gouge into the middle of the bowl while it is spinning. And um, here you have the tool rest, where you rest your chisel on the tool rest so that it doesn't shake about or move around um, the way that you don't want it. Okay, so these are the different accessories for the lathe. Okay, all right, so after you're finished doing all your cutting and ripping and chiseling and so on, you want to smooth everything out. And here we have four different types of sanders that you can use. The first one is a spindle sander because you have a little spindle, and the second one is a floor model belt sander, and this is more a vertical sander that you can use to rest things against horizontally and sand them vertically. And here you have a round sander that it is also vertical, but you get a different sanding grain when you're using it. This one is a belt sander. As you can see, it's like a belt. It is a belt, and you just rest your material on top. And this one you can actually sand more area space for your piece so that you can finish quicker. Okay, so it depends on what you are making, the type of sander that you are going to use. All right, so we have come to the end of the video. Check your understanding. These are the notes at the end. Make sure you understand what everything here is explaining. And like it says, the mortising machine is of two main types. You have the hollow chisel type and the chain type. Okay, so you have different mortising machines. The general wood turning lathe is purposely designed for producing a variety of turned items. So If you're using the lathe, you have the options of doing a million different things that you want to do. So if you have ideas, you can sketch them out on a paper or do them on SketchUp on the computer or whatever, and then try and make them afterwards. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do now is answer the revision exercise, do the revision exercises, and answer the questions. And if you do not know any of the questions, leave a note in the description. Like the channel if you understood everything. If you don't understand, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching and keep woodworking. All right. Take care. Bye.